Gaotai Shizhong. During his time traveling through the Han Dynasty, Liu Chan, the ruler of the later Han Dynasty, was fortunate enough to have Zhuge assist the Han Dynasty and revitalize the great Han Dynasty. As the saying goes, my ancestor waved his whip, how majestic the tiger looked. Northern Expedition of Cao Wei, Southern Expedition of Jiangdong, Western Regions of Xi'an, Eastern Expansion of 3 Han Dynasties. Master Liu Chan thrives on the Great Han Dynasty. Book Friend Group 740753945 Keywords of the novel. 3 Kingdoms. Hanzhong Zhu no pop-up window, 3 Kingdoms. Hanzhong Zhu TXT complete collection download, 3 Kingdoms. Hanzhong Zhu latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Han Crown Prince Liu Chan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Han Crown Prince Liu Chan. In the 3rd year of the Huangchu reign of Emperor Wen of Wei, in the 2nd year of the Wu reign of Emperor Zhaolai Liu Beizhang, and in the 100,000 years, he did not declare himself emperor. In May, nearly 60,000 soldiers of the Han army traveled 100 miles on both sides of the Yangtze River from Jianping in Wuxia, now Wushan in Chongqing, to Yiling, now southeast of Yichang in Hubei, with more than 50 barracks in Shuzhe. Chengdu Prime Minister's office in June. Zhuge Liang stroked his beard and pondered slightly, asking the Crown Prince Zen, Crown Prince, how is the recitation of Guanzi Xiaowen going? Liu Chan knelt on the couch and arched his hand, saying, Prime Minister, I have taken note of it a few days ago. Yesterday, Fei Qin also explained its meaning to me. Zhuge Liang pondered for a while and asked, Duke Huan asked. To govern without disorder, to govern without concealment, what is it? What does it mean? Liu Chan recalled and replied, if we divide our positions clearly, we can govern without disorder, and if we are clear about our responsibilities, we can arrange our official positions so that we can govern without disorder, and if we are clear about our responsibilities, we can avoid confusion. Zhuge Liang nodded slightly and asked after him, I dare to ask the Crown Prince, how to divide his duties. After pondering for a long time and combining his experience as a village official in his previous life, Liu Chan replied, we need to establish laws and regulations. The military has military laws, the people have civil laws, and the officials have official laws. We should divide power according to law. If the law does not allow us to do it, we will be punished. The officials will manage it, and the imperial censor will supervise it. Zhuge Liang smiled slightly and asked, good, if the country is poor now, how can we make it prosperous? Liu Chan thought of the theory of William Petty, a classical British political economist, and replied, Prime Minister, Guanzi said. If you work hard to cultivate the land and meet the farming season, you will definitely make the country prosperous. Diligent work is the father of money, and land is the mother of money. Diligent work can produce more food. As a monarch, it is necessary to govern the palace frugally, conserve vehicles to enrich the country's reserves. At that time, the country will become rich and respected. The monarch should also save clothes and abandon good things to strengthen agricultural cultivation. If the wealth is sufficient, the country's position will be consolidated. Moreover, it is necessary to encourage scholars and people to specialize in researching cultivation methods and tools that can increase grain production. Zhuge Liang looked at Liu Chan with admiration, feeling in his heart that if the Crown Prince could really do as he said, there was hope for the revival of the Han Dynasty. Zhuge Liang praised and said, if the Crown Prince has these words, there is hope for the revival of the Han Dynasty. Although he is currently at war with Sun Wu, he will continue to diligently repair his internal affairs, encourage farming, and repair his military armor. When the world changes and the northern expedition goes against Wei, the Crown Prince will follow these words and return to the old capital. It is just around the corner. Liu Chan straightened his face and arched his hand, saying, we all rely on the teachings of the Prime Minister. In the future, during the northern expedition, we will seek the assistance of the Prime Minister in stabilizing the country. Although Liu Chan was happy in his heart, he was not excited. A month ago, while learning archery at the shooting mountain and riding a horse, he accidentally fell off his horse and traveled to the Three Kingdoms. The shooting mountain is located 15 miles north of Chengdu County, where Liu Chan learned to shoot, recorded in the records of the universe in his past life. He was just a college student village official. In response to the government's call, he went to the central region to alleviate poverty. On the day of poverty alleviation in the village, he drank too much and returned home. He fell and ended up traveling to the Three Kingdoms. When he woke up, he found out that Liu Bei was attacking Wu, so he quickly wrote a letter. Tell his cheap father to be careful of Liu Sun's fire attack. But I didn't expect Liu Bei to reply and criticize. The meaning is as follows. If you talk about war without experiencing it, how dare I hand over the country to you? You are Zhao Kuo. What you need to do now is to study hard with the Prime Minister, practice martial arts well, and don't worry about anything else. Liu Sun, I'm not worried about your father. I'm beating him now and he's stuck in the city, afraid to come out. It's normal for you to fall while learning equestrian archery. Keep practicing and let me see your learning progress when I return. Dad, I have laid a solid foundation for you now, so that you can achieve great success when you ascend to the throne in the future. However, you lack experience now and need to exercise well. I used to fight and didn't have time to teach you, but now you need to make up for what you left behind when you were a child. Dad, I didn't study much before. I regret it. Otherwise, there might have been something wrong with Cao Cao back then. Cao Pai is not a wise monarch. I am particularly worried that when I attack Sun Quan, Cao Pai will march south and Sun Wu will be destroyed, making it difficult for our Han Dynasty to revive. However, he did not do it. He cannot compare to Cao Cao, me, or even Sun Quan. You need to be stronger than him in the future, so that I can revive the Han Dynasty. I'm worried when I see you now. I have instructed the Prime Minister to teach you well. If you don't study hard, I will cut you when I go back. In summary, old Liu boasted about being awesome and urged Liu Chan to study hard. If he didn't study hard, he would go back and criticize Liu Chan. In the past, old Liu studied less, but now he regrets it, so Liu Chan should study hard. It seems that fathers are the same throughout history. Liu Chan's heart is full _b. The next day, Liu Chan went to the shooting mountain to practice archery, accompanied by more than 10 riders including Crown Prince Sharon Hui, Dong Yun, Fei Yi, and others. Due to the hot noon, Liu Chan and his team set off early. The supplies were prepared by eunuchs last night, including dry rations, pastries, bows, and arrows. Although summer is hot, the morning in Chengdu is still cooler. The scenery on the road is extraordinary, but the crowd on the road appears silent. Liu Chan realized that he had already traveled through a different world and needed to return to his student days. However, when he thought about his own abilities, he remained silent. Liu Chan's predecessor was not very intelligent, and when he was young, Liu Bei had been fighting without any guidance. His mother died at a young age, and he had been studying intermittently. Liu Chan himself was not a person with self-control, and he swallowed a lot of knowledge without seeking a deep understanding. Liu Chan also pondered the Battle of Yiling, where almost all the generals of the second generation of Shu Han were completely defeated, including Feng Shi, Qing Ji, Fu Tong, Zhang Nan, Mao Yang, and Sha Mok. Huang Quan defected to Wei, and the Shu Han army had 50,000 soldiers and horses. Except for the reserve officer Zhao Yun, a small portion of the Central Army's troops escaped and were almost annihilated. Shu Han was in a state of decline, and after nearly 6 years of recuperation as the Prime Minister, Shu Han finally accumulated some troops to support the northern expedition. The Crown Prince's attendant Hui grew up with Liu Chan from a young age and comforted him by saying, "Your Majesty has been in the army for half his life, and has experienced numerous battles. With General Huang and his attendant Ma around, how could he have failed?" Liu Chan glanced back at Hui and said, "It's a pity that Fa Xiaoji died early, otherwise I wouldn't have worried." Hua Yi replied, I once knew about the strategy of Hanzhong, which was originally planned by Mr. Huang. Therefore, in my opinion, General Zhenbei, Huang Quan, is not inferior to Marquis Yi. Liu Chan thought to himself, it's not that bad, but I can't stop Liu Bei from listening. Liu Chan couldn't say that in history, Liu Bei simply didn't listen to Huang Quan and Mao Liang's words, and then faced Lu Sun and gave him away. It's not necessary to have something that everyone doesn't know, speculate and say it. What is the persuasiveness of this? After considering the known conditions, Liu Chan remained silent for a moment and said, Sun Tzu Yun. In the past, those who were good at fighting were first invincible, waiting for the enemy to be victorious. They were invincible in themselves, but they were victorious in the enemy. Therefore, those who were good at fighting were invincible, but they could not make the enemy invincible. Your Majesty fought fiercely against Lu Sun in Yiling for many months, but Lu Sun remained steadfast. It was not Lu Sun who feared the enemy, but Lu Sun who waited for the opportunity. Now that our army cannot find the weakness of the Wu army, we cannot defeat Lu Sun. Although I believe that our father is also searching for his weakness, Lu Sun has been steadfast for several months and will inevitably continue to hold on. From the situation, our army is an attacker. Therefore, every time our army advances, the front line is stretched, and our weaknesses are more likely to be detected by Lu Sun. From Lu Sun's past experiences in warfare, he has a cautious personality. In my opinion, when he attacks, he will definitely test our main forces to ensure their ideas are correct. Then, Lu Sun will launch a full army attack to defeat our army. As soon as these words were spoken, Dong Yun, Fei Yi, and Hua Yi were stunned and looked at Liu Chan in amazement, unable to believe that he was the Crown Prince Liu Chan. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Shooting Mountain and Learning to Shoot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Shooting Mountain and Learning to Shoot. Liu Chan seemed to feel everyone's surprised eyes, sighed helplessly, and then looked at Dong Yun again. Although Dong Yun was appointed as the Crown Prince's attendant, he was responsible for security work. After all, he had some understanding of military affairs. Dong Yun felt Liu Chan's gaze and said calmly, Your Highness's words are reasonable, but the only important matters of the country are the worship and military. Your Highness has not gone to Yiling, and he has not read much of the war report he sent back to Chengdu. I think Your Highness can have a deeper understanding of the war before giving advice. After all, Your Highness is the Crown Prince. Talking about Your Majesty's defeat here is not a good thing for the Han Dynasty. Although I agree with Your Highness's views, it is still important to be cautious about military and state affairs. Hua Yi next to him wants to argue for Liu Chan. Liu Chan waved his hand to stop, remained silent for a moment, and said, I am still young and not very thoughtful in considering things. Thank you very much for Dong Qing's advice. I want to go to Yiling today to gain a deeper understanding of the progress of the war, but the Prime Minister is worried about my safety and does not want me to go to Yiling. May I know if Dong Qing and Fei Qing have a solution? Liu Chan was well aware of Dong Yun's personality, and instead of expecting anything, he turned his gaze to Fei Yi. In history, Emperor Liu Chan of Shuhan feared Dong Yun like a tiger. Liu Chan wanted to enrich the harem and increase the number of concubines. As soon as this proposal was proposed, it was rejected by Dong Yun. Dong Yun believed that according to the ancient system, the number of imperial concubines should not exceed 12, but now that the number of concubines in the harem is complete and should not be increased, he resolutely refused to do so. Liu Chan had no choice but to honestly follow Dong Yun's advice and never dare to mention this matter again. Dong Yun's character is upright and unyielding, making it difficult to use power to suppress him. Therefore, Liu Chan placed his hope on Fei Yi, hoping that Fei Yi could find a way to persuade Zhuge Liang to let him go to Yiling. In the history of Fei Yi, he was eloquent and had excellent interpersonal skills. He mainly mediated the conflicts between Yang Yi and Wei Yan, and Fei Yi was stronger than Dong Yun in terms of structure and scheming. Dong Yun can serve as the imperial censor, while Fei Yi can serve as the prime minister. Fei Yi pondered for a moment and said with a smile, Your Highness, do you know that Emperor Wen personally tasted the soup and medicine, and that Zheng Zi's biting of his finger was heartbreaking? Hui Yi seemed to understand what was looking at Liu Chan, who pointed his whip at Fei Yi and laughed heartily, Fei Qing, it's me Zhang Lianger. Liu Chan knows these two allusions. Emperor Wen personally tasted the soup and medicine. Empress Dowager Bo, the biological mother of Emperor Wen, often fell ill. For 3 years, Emperor Wen couldn't sleep soundly at night and often slept in unison. If her mother didn't personally try the soup and medicine she took, she wouldn't be allowed to take it. Zhengzi gnawed his fingers and felt heartbroken. Zhengzi once went to the mountains to chop firewood, and there were guests visiting his home. The mother was at a loss and waited for Zhengzi for a long time before returning, so she bit his finger. Zhengzi suddenly felt heartbroken and returned home carrying firewood, kneeling to ask his mother if something had happened. My mother said, a guest suddenly visited my home, and I bit my finger hoping you could sense it. Dong Yun helplessly glared at Fei Yi and bowed, Your Highness, please bring your humble ministers. The governor of Jiangzhou wishes to escort food and forage to Yiling, but please ask General Zhao, the governor of Jiangzhou, to escort you. Liu Chan replied, Of course, Qing is my strong point, Dong Xian. General Zhao, both saved me and treated me like an uncle. After Liu Chan finished speaking, he burst out laughing and waved his whip to quickly head towards the shooting mountain. At the foot of Xishan Mountain Liu Chan followed the ups and downs of the galloping horse under his crotch and swam his arrow out. Kai, Crown Prince, good archery. Liu Chan remained unaffected and continued to aim with his bow and arrow. The scarecrow, who was about 100 meters tall, held his breath and shot the dummy's head. Surrounded by praises before crossing over, Liu Chan often shot arrows and developed back muscles. Liu Chan inherited Liu Bei's hand-length characteristics, and his archery skills were already beginner. However, his talent, diligence, and eyesight were lacking. After crossing over, his eyesight became even more powerful, his arm strength also increased, and his height skyrocketed. Overall, the original owner became stronger, and his entire body, including his 5 limbs, was upgraded, interpreting what tiger body, wolf waist, and ape arm are. Now I feel like I have a general understanding of archery, and when I concentrate, my reaction becomes much faster. The weight of using bows and arrows increased, and I replaced 2 bows in a month. This is a 130-pound strong bow, which was 1 in a million in the Qing Dynasty, a country proud of horseback riding and archery. Liu Chan's bow and arrow are described in modern units of measurement. There are no specific pictures circulating about the testing method of this bow and arrow in the Han Dynasty, making it difficult to infer its strength. Only modern bows can be used to describe it, so everyone should have a concept. If there are any friends, please let me know. Liu Chan lightly leaped forward and withdrew his arrow. Hui Yi rode forward and congratulated, Your Highness, unparalleled in horseback and archery. I think only the late General Huang can compete with Your Highness. Liu Chan waved his hand and said, with General Zhao and the Marquis of Xiangxiang present, I dare not claim power. Back then, General Zhao saved me from the chaos with thousands of troops and horses on the Changban slope. His equestrian, marksmanship, and archery skills are unparalleled in the world. You can ask General Zhao for more advice in the future. Hui Yi, you should study military tactics and horsemanship more diligently. I hope you can become the Wei Qing of my great Han. Liu Chan finished speaking on the wrong horse and patted Hui Yi's shoulder. Hui Yi responded loudly behind Liu Chan, Your Highness, my wish is the same. Shooting at noon, in the scorching summer, everyone hid under the shadow of the big trees. Dong Yun wiped the sweat off his face with his sleeve and felt the heat of the weather. He said, the weather is so hot, I don't know how the Eastern Expedition Army will be. It would be great if we could camp under the trees. Liu Chan took a water bag and took a sip of spring water, handed it to his attendants, and sneered, "I'm afraid Liu Chan also thinks the same way. The weather is hot today, and I heard from the war report that our army has been camping for 100 miles under the tree. So if Liu Chan were to launch a fire attack, where would our Han army of 60,000 soldiers be to avoid?" Dong Yun broke out in a cold sweat after hearing this. His Highness's words came true. The Eastern Expedition army was doomed, and the revival of the Han Dynasty was difficult. Dong Yun and Fei Yi exchanged a glance. Fei Yi bowed and said, "Your Highness is wise. I don't know how your Majesty will set up camp. Please inform your Majesty of this method quickly so that he can be prepared." Liu Chan sighed helplessly and said, "I told my father a month ago, but he asked me to practice martial arts and literature more frequently. I don't need to worry about the Yiling war. That's why I hope to go to Yiling and advise my father." Liu Chan took the water bag and sipped his saliva, shaking his voice, saying, "Therefore, I want to go to Yiling to fulfill my filial piety. The heat is scorching today, and my father, who is almost 60 years old and is fighting outside, is wearing a sharp armor. As a son, I am currently going to fulfill my filial piety. Moreover, the heat is like a steamer, and I will go to the army as a laborer. Tonight, I will pay my respects to the Prime Minister and inform him of today's conjecture. Let the Prime Minister allow me to leave for Yiling. I also hope that everyone can advise me together in front of the Prime Minister." Hua Yi, Fei Yi, and Dong Yun bowed their hands and said, "Promise." Liu Chan stood up and lifted his spear, saying, "Hua Yi, accompany me to practice a few moves, and then return to Chengdu." Liu Chan walked up to the horse and touched its mane. The horse lifted its hooves and lightly stepped on the soil. Hua Yi touched the double stirrup saddle and smiled, saying, "Your Highness has asked craftsmen to improve the double-sided stirrups and horseshoes, which are excellent items. Yi's riding skills have improved a lot, and they all rely on this item. However, this item cannot be known to the Wei state." Liu Chan chuckled lightly and said, "Of course that's the case. After the age of nearly 1, I will accumulate horses and promote this item to the whole army during the northern expedition. At that time, I will definitely let the bandits of the rebellious Wei see my Han iron cavalry. Don't worry, I'm using it for personal use now. I haven't promoted it yet. The real promotion will come after winning the dragon." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Accompanying personnel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Accompanying personnel. Chengdu Prime Minister's Office. Your Highness's words about military affairs are reasonable and well-founded, not unfounded. Your Highness is willing to go to Yiling with filial piety and labor. Please prepare a letter to inform your Majesty of the situation. Your Highness can go ahead and gather General Zilong to go to Yiling together." Zhuge Liang gently shook his feather fan and said with a slight thought, "Do you have any other accompanying personnel, Your Highness?" Liu Chan pressed his sword and straightened his waist, saying to the already prepared candidates, "In my opinion, we can let Hu Ben Zhonglang Mi Wei, the younger brother of the Marquis of the Xiang, Ma Buizhan, Ma Dai, the Crown Prince's attendant Hua Yi, Dong Yun, and the gatekeeper Wang Ping all come with me to the east." Zhuge Liang stopped his feather fan, pondered for a moment, and said, "Mi Wei is skilled in archery and horseback riding, and the escape of Lu Fang must be effective in death. Ma Dai is skilled in horseback riding, and can help the hearts of rural lords. Wang Ping is a gatekeeper of Chengdu, but his character is unknown." Liu Chan arched his hand and said with a smile, "I would like to inform the Prime Minister that Wang Ping was from Bajong and surrendered to our army during the Battle of Hanzhong. I have heard soldiers in the army say that Wang Ping is brave and strict. Although he is a Han Chinese Tsong, he can still be used, and he can reassure the hearts of the Tsong people, demonstrating the broad-mindedness of my great Han Dynasty." Liu Chan was not surprised that Zhuge Liang was unaware of Wang Ping's situation. At this time, Zhuge Liang did not lead troops, and Wang Ping was only at the grassroots level in the army. Zhuge Liang gently shook his feather fan and said, Shan, Your Highness, the personnel arrangement for this trip is reasonable, with both confidants and minions. May I ask when Your Highness is planning to depart for Yiling? Liu Chan pressed his sword and straightened his waist, saying in a deep voice, soldiers are of great value and speed. It would be best to depart tomorrow morning. The envoy has been prepared now, and once the Prime Minister agrees, I will instruct the envoy to inform the accompanying people to prepare to depart. Upon hearing these words, Zhuge Liang's eyes lit up and his feather fan in his hand also stopped. He was amazed by Liu Chan's recent growth and felt even more that the Crown Prince had the potential to become a wise ruler. Zhuge Liang couldn't help feeling relieved in his heart, and his tone rose as he said, "It seems that Your Highness has already had a plan in his heart," and Liang didn't say much. "I hope Your Highness will act carefully on this trip. You must let Zilong accompany Your Highness on both sides and not leave lightly." Zhuge Liang similarly reminded his own descendants not to worry about Liu Chan, and instructed everyone to protect Liu Chan. Liu Chan agreed one by one, and everyone also promised to keep going. Hui even swore, "I will die before the Crown Prince." Liu Chan couldn't help but be influenced by his predecessor's emotions, so he took Zhuge Liang's hand and sincerely said, "Since I remember, my father has been fighting almost consecutively, and I rarely see him. Even when I see my father, he is too busy with national affairs and lacks communication. I and the Prime Minister are known as master-disciple, but we share the same feelings as father and son. It is not an exaggeration to call the Prime Minister Prime Minister's father, and it is not a big problem for Zen to go here. However, Zen often worries that the Prime Minister is busy with desk work day and night, and cannot eat on time. Zen should stay away from him now, and it is difficult for his heart to be at ease. I hope that the Prime Minister must eat on time." Upon hearing this, Zhuge Liang seemed to have been touched. His nose was sore, and he nodded in response, saying, "If it's not early, the heir should prepare early. As for eating on time, I should take note of it." Upon seeing this scene, Fei Yi secretly marveled at the Prime Minister's decisive and resolute handling of affairs, as well as his unwavering character. He had never seen the Prime Minister so emotional before. The relationship between the Prime Minister and the Crown Prince is so deep that it feels like a nephew. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister's affairs are busy and he still has no offspring. Liu Chan bowed and pressed his sword straight out. As he passed by, he patted Fei Yi's shoulder and said, "Wen Wei, you personally give him 2 meals every morning and evening. No matter what the Prime Minister does, he must ensure that he eats on time." Fei Yi bowed his hand and replied, "No." At the entrance of Chengdu Milu Mansion, Messenger Liu Bing, holding a decree, walked to the main entrance of the Elk Mansion and shouted, "The Crown Prince has an order, please ask Huban Zhonglang to take it." The attendants at the entrance quickly entered the mansion, asking for the help of Lu Zhu and Lu Wei. Upon seeing this, the two of them went out to receive orders. Liu Bing saw Milu Wei go out and shouted, "Milu Zhu and Milu Wei have received orders." The Crown Prince said, "Let Milu Wei lead his troops and elite troops to defend the Crown Prince and head to Yiling." The Crown Prince said, "The power of the deer is that of a brave general. The actions of this Yiling Pass are crucial to the great cause of the Han Dynasty's eastward expedition, and it is difficult for them to shoulder important responsibilities without the power of the deer." Elk Zhu and Elk Wei bowed their hands and listened to the order, while Elk Wei received the order with both hands. After Liu Bingxian finished speaking, he quickly went to Wang Ping's military camp to announce the order, bowed and said goodbye to Lu Zhu. Elk Zhu and Elk Wei bowed back. "Your uncle, Elk Fang, defected to the state of Wu, causing our great Han to suffer the tragic loss of Jingzhou and General Guan," said Elk Zhu as he looked at Elk Wei with a heavy heart. "This trip will definitely wash away the shame of our Elk clan." Elk looked at his father with great authority, and his face, which had become increasingly thin due to his uncle's defection, nodded. He then turned around and ordered the butler to select excellent songs before heading to the Tiger Ben army. The Huban army was the central forbidden army of the great Han Dynasty, and Liu Chan had no authority to mobilize them. However, most of the Huban army was already under Liu Bei's account, and the rest was placed in Chengdu under Liu Chan's command. It was also under the leadership of Zhuge Liang and could not be mobilized unless ordered by the crown prince. According to the Huan Ji Yao Lu, Emperor Wu of Han was fond of traveling in a humble way. He established a temporary gatekeeper to accompany him at the palace gate. Emperor Ping changed his name to Huban Zhonglang. It is also said, Hu Ben Zhonglang Jiang, with a rank ratio of 2,000 stones. Hu Ben Zhonglang is more than 600 stones. Hu Ben's attendant is worth 400 stones. Tiger Ben Lang is more than 300 stones. The festival starts from the tiger's edge, more than 200 stones. There are no staff members, and I am in charge of the guards and attendants. Milu Wei ordered the Tiger Ben army and nearly 600 elite soldiers to gather at the North Gate Academy in early morning. The soldier who received the military order overnight felt another wave of excitement at home. Chengdu County Military Camp Dental Gatekeeper Wang Ping felt unbelievable as he looked at the edict in front of him. From the Battle of Hanzhong to now, we are eagerly awaiting Your Majesty's orders. Your Majesty's expedition to the east did not follow, and Wang Ping seemed to doubt whether Your Majesty did not use it because of his identity as its own person, and also doubted whether he had the ability, falling into self-anxiety. Unexpectedly, when the Crown Prince Liu Chan issued an edict, it was difficult to express his emotions for a moment. At this moment, Prince Liu Chan, whom Wang Ping was longing for, was heading to the residence of Marquis Ma Chao in his hometown. Marquis Ma Chao's mansion in Xiangxiang. Liu Chan looked at Ma Chao, who was supported by Ma Dai and had a thin and pale face, as if it was difficult to connect with the impression of Jean Ma Chao. Ma Chao arched his hand and said weakly, Your Highness, I am old and have over 200 members of my family, all of whom have been executed by Chaomunda. I have tasted and pondered deeply. I am an unknown person, and I have known that I am sad this year. Fortunately, I have received the grace of the Crown Prince to support my younger brother Dai. Now that the Crown Prince is traveling eastward, all the elite members of the mansion can follow my younger brother Dai to protect the Crown Prince. Liu Chan looked at Ma Chao's haggard face and didn't know what to say. Finally, he comforted him and said, Marquis of the countryside, you can go out and relax. This is the end of the matter and it is difficult to change. Ma Chao shook his head with a bitter smile and said, I am aware of my situation. Thank you, Your Highness, for your concern. I hope Your Highness will be careful when traveling eastward. I have heard that the Yiling war was not going well, and Lu Sun could not defend himself or defeat us for a long time. I am also worried about this. Your Highness has been discussing with Your Majesty many times, and the soldiers of the Eastern expedition are the elite of our Han Dynasty. We must not make any mistakes. Upon hearing this, Liu Chan straightened his waist and pressed his sword, saying in a deep voice, Thank you very much for the advice of the Marquis of the Township. I hope that the Marquis of the Township will have less worries and prioritize taking good care of his health. Many great generals have died this morning. After the Marquis of the Township recovers, he will have his own place to use. Liu Chan bowed to show his departure, and Ma Chao asked Ma Daili to escort Liu Chan out of the mansion. Liu Chan and his group returned to the palace, feeling a bit dull. Hua Yi sneered and said, The Marquis of Yuanxiang caused his father to abandon his family and was disloyal and unjust. I didn't expect to worry about this. Your Majesty, how can you make great use of it? Your Highness takes good care of his younger brother Ma Dai, and he is already kind to him. Liu Chan couldn't help but chuckle a few times and ride his horse forward. Is anyone watching? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Eastward leaving the Yiling Mausoleum. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Eastward leaving the Yiling Mausoleum. Chengdu Prince's mansion. As soon as Liu Chan entered the palace, the Crown Princess Zhang welcomed him out. Liu Chan saw that Zhang had a strong and demonic appearance, with a magical appearance. Her cloud hair was abundant and beautiful, her eyebrows were white and her teeth were white, her complexion was lush, and her scenery was shining brightly. Liu Chan secretly sighed at the beauty of the Zhang family. The Han people did not deceive the Han people, and the selection of beautiful women in the imperial harem of the Han Dynasty was based on their strong and graceful appearance. Chang refers to being tall, Zhuang refers to having a plump physique, Yao refers to having a beautiful and charming appearance, Jiao refers to being clean and fresh, and having a Dharma appearance seems to borrow the Buddhist term Dharma appearance. Empress Deng of Emperor He is 7 feet 2 inches tall, and Empress He of Emperor Ling of Han is 7 feet 1 inch tall, which is approximately 165 centimeters today. Since ancient times, China has not favored white, thin, and young people. The descriptions of facial features such as slender fingers, broad body, smooth skin, round shoulders, and white and dense teeth are consistent with those of Han Dynasty literati, such as Sima Xiangru's Beauty Ode. Although Liu Chan had seen Zhang many times, he couldn't help but marvel at how he had the opportunity to marry such a graceful and charming woman in his past life. Zhang used modern language to say, he has a tall and slender figure, with a front convex and back curved shape, and his skin is smooth and tender like white porcelain. Sure enough, the Chow thief didn't bully me either. Wang Yi is not biased, Han thieves are not at odds, only limited to politics. Liu Chan couldn't help but feel intoxicated and hugged Zhang, saying in a low voice, "May I know if Madam is willing to share the same seat with me tonight?" After hearing this, Zhang blushed with embarrassment. Since the crown prince fell off his horse, he has become even more amusing. If he doesn't answer, he will definitely go to bed. Epsilon. Zhang blushed and whispered, "May, this is the language of the boudoir. It is advisable for the crown prince to take it seriously." Liu Chan hugged Zhang's shoulder and walked towards the inner mansion. Liu Chan whispered, "Tomorrow I will go to Yiling to visit my father, and in the future, I need to care more for my second and third younger brothers at home. I will also visit my mother, Empress Wu, in the Deep Palace." Zhang gasped and said, "Yes, Your Highness. Pay more attention to safety on this trip. Tomorrow morning, I will enter the palace to visit my mother. Later, I need to go to Zhang's mansion to visit my younger sister. The music here is not enough to be heard by outsiders. Chengdu Crown Prince's mansion has a slightly brighter sky." Liu Chan stood up gently, and the maid knew that Liu Chan had set off this morning and had already been waiting outside. Liu Chan enjoyed the decadent life of a maid serving and dressing in front of the bronze mirror, and he was already powerless to resist. The saying goes, it is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. Liu Chan looked at his erect facial features, wolf waist and ape arms in front of the mirror, and couldn't help but boast about being a beautiful young man. A refreshing fragrance rushed in from behind, and her jade arms wrapped around Liu Chan's waist. Noa Noa said, "Your Highness, how early you are." Liu Chan looked at Mei Jiaonyang in the mirror and joked, "Yesterday was sour or weak. My mother hasn't gotten up yet, so I won't go pay her respects. You can sleep for a while, pay her respects again, and apologize to my mother for me. I can't say goodbye in person. Military affairs are urgent." Zhang responded with a red face. Liu Chan thought of something and hurried to the Prime Minister's mansion, in the year 222 AD, at the end of June. Chengdu North Gate campus on the martial arts platform, Liu Chan was dressed in a crimson robe and wore a silver crown on his head. He held a long sword in his left hand and a spear in his right hand. In the Book of Later Han, Yu Fu Ji Xiao. Wu Guan, commonly known as De Guan, has a ring tassel without any sharp edges. It is made of green as the tassel, with double tassel tails added, standing vertically on both sides, forming a cloud-shaped crown. Hua Yi, Lu Wei, Dong Yun, Ma Dai, and Wang Ping stood on stage, with their subordinates and their troops behind them. Only Wang Ping was out of place. Liu Chan shouted loudly, "Where are Hu Ben Zhong Lang Lu Wei, Crown Prince Shiren Hua Gu, Dong Yun, General Yao Ma Dai, and General Yaman Wang Ping?" How many troops and horses do they belong to? Hu Ben Zhong Lang and his tribe consisted of 600 people, said Lu Wei Huai and Dong Yun said, there are 700 guards in the eastern palace. Liu Chan glanced more at Dong Yun. There were 300 guards in the eastern palace, and 200 followers left by Huiyi's father. Unexpectedly, Dong Yun also had 200 followers. Ma Dai replied, 200 elite cavalry under my command. Wang Ping shouted with a red face, Ping has no part, he belongs to Ping alone. Liu Chan seemed to feel the gaze of everyone looking at Wang Ping and said in a high voice, Wang Ping, I have a heavy responsibility, so I don't need any subordinates under my command. Let him stand by in Chengdu. Wang Ping looked gratefully at the Crown Prince Liu Chan. Dong Yun obeyed the order, and the palace guards were transferred to Wang Ping's command, with Wang Ping protecting me. Ma Dai obeyed the order and ordered your 200 elite cavalry to be the vanguard of the army. The rest will be incorporated into the central army and lead directly to Jiangzhou. Everyone said, promise. The carriage rustled and the horse rustled. The trend of valuing martial arts was prevalent in the Han Dynasty. Ordinary soldiers carried swords and shields on their backs, while elite soldiers carried bows and arrows on their backs. When Liu Chan saw many arrows on the road, he knew the level of elite in his team. Qualified ancient archers were mostly big brothers with large arms and round waists, possessing a tall skeleton and strong muscles that were stronger than many modern people. Otherwise, they would not be able to pull their bows and could not be like those slender and agile archers in movies and games. Liu Chan stationed his horse on the hillside, and below the slope was the Tiger Ben army led by Elk Wei. When Liu Wei saw Liu Chan standing on horseback, wearing a he crown and a Huan robe, he immediately drove his horse forward. The Book of Han states. From the Tiger Ben to the martial cavalry with He Guan and Tiger Wan in single clothes. Liu Chan saw Milu Wei approach and raised his whip, saying, Boyan, where are you from ahead? Elk Wei arched his hand and said, ahead is Guangdu County under the jurisdiction of Shu County. Liu Chan looked at the distant county town and said, Shan, Shaoxian, with the courtesy name Huai, I have ordered all the troops to rest in Guangdu in front of me, asking the county mayor not to provide food and forage. It is now difficult to supply the army for the eastern expedition. Boyan, during the rest of Guangdu, buy grain and grass from the wealthy families in the city and do not disturb the people. Zijun, let Xiu Zhao come over. Liu Chan was looking at the map when he saw Dong Yun looking up and saying, Xiu Zhao, from now on, the army will try to purchase as much food and forage as possible from the powerful aristocratic families. It will not be until Jiangzhou that the Jiangzhou governor's office will provide our army with food and forage for the eastern expedition. It is now difficult for counties to supply the eastern expedition army. Dong Yun too wore a Jinxian crown, dressed in a mysterious robe and arched his hand, saying, No. Liu Chan lowered his head and continued to point to the map to communicate with Wang Ping. Zijuan, after passing through Guangdu, he boarded a ship in Wuyang, the county seat of Jianwei, passed through the gorge, and then went downstream to Jiangyang. He continued to follow the current and went straight to Jiangzhou, Ba County. After meeting General Zhao, he went directly downstream to Yiling. Do you have any objections? Wang Ping looked down for a moment and said, There's nothing. Liu Chan once again said to Dong Yun, Xiu Zhao, write the military order according to the meaning of both me and Zijuan. Just write Zijuan as your signature, and then Zijuan will pass on the military order. Dong Yun looked at Wang Ping with some astonishment, feeling that Liu Chan was treating a Han Chinese Tsongrenyi gatekeeper with some kindness, and he was also illiterate. Ma Dai and Mu Wei are not more qualified. However, Dong Yun could only respond to Wang Ping first and offer his advice after he leaves. Liu Chan glanced at Dong Yun, who seemed to understand his thoughts, and said, I know what I can do, but you haven't seen LV Menghu. LV Menghu didn't recognize 10 characters in his old days, but later he crossed the river in white clothes and intercepted Jingzhou. Dong Yun was surprised when Liu Chan compared Wang Ping to LV Meng. Although he was dissatisfied, he could only respond. Although Wang Ping was excited when Liu Chan compared himself to LV Meng, he was deeply skeptical whether he could meet His Highness's expectations. The records of the Three Kingdoms states. Wang Ping is narrow-minded and suspicious, and he is self-deprecating. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Zilong accepts his apprentices. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Zilong accepts his apprentices. Hao Jing said, Wang Pingpu Lu has the strategy of a great general. The tiger lies in the northern region and closes the sword gate. Liu Chan was well aware of Wang Ping's excellence, whether it was his second retreat from Zhanghe or his later defeat of Cao Shuang with a force of 30,000, all of which demonstrated Wang Ping's outstanding command ability. With the talent of Song people, he was appointed as the former supervisor and the general of Zhenbei, leading Hanzhong. It was extremely difficult. And he is not a powerful aristocratic family, with no followers within. Worth reuse, in order to provide excellent generals for the northern expedition in the future, and to cultivate one's own discourse power in ascending the throne in the future, I will support him just like Emperor Wu of Han supported Wei Qing. Liu Chan took out a pre-prepared piece of Sun Tzu's Art of War, written in silk, and handed it to Wang Ping, saying, Zijuan, choose a section to recite every day and take more notes when reading. I have told Xiu Zhao to teach you how to read every day. Although you have exceptional talent, your actions are already within the scope of the art of war. Wang Ping took the military document with trembling hands, looking incredulous. In the Han Dynasty, a school of Confucianism emerged, making it difficult to obtain ordinary books, let alone the precious military book, The Art of War, by Sun Tzu. Wang Ping knelt down on one knee and bowed, saying, Your Highness, I will never repay you for your kindness. Liu Chan held Wang Ping's hand and bowed to him, saying, I have known your abilities since I was in Chengdu. Although my sons are all illiterate, after spending a few days together, I have known your strategy, astronomy, geography, and strict military governance. All of my sons are talented generals, and I do not want my pearls to be covered in dust. The ancient saying goes, the sword is adorned with a hero. Today, I present my military book to Zijuan, wishing to share a beautiful story. Wang Ping's eyes were moist with tears and he said excitedly, How could Ping he treat you like this? Ping is willing to be His Highness's lackey in the future, even though he will die 9 times and never repay His Highness's kindness. Liu Chan helped Wang Ping ho up and said with a refreshing smile, How could a great man hold such a posture? A great man should not underestimate himself when standing in the world. From now on, all my sons will be my henchmen. Just help me conquer the world. After Liu Chan finished speaking, he gestured to Wang Ping to quickly find Dong Yun to learn how to read. Jiangzhou Governor's Eastern Expedition Camp. Summer is hot and the heat is overwhelming. A cool breeze blew past the military camp, and the Zhao flag was rolled up by the wind. The officials waiting for Liu Chan at the front of their teeth were taken away by the cool breeze, feeling a little tired and hot. During the Northern Song Dynasty, in modern times, martial arts were promoted through the practice of using the Tonghu Gongfu and Gongmen as the gateways, and the courtesy name was changed from Perbian to Ye. The crowd looked from afar at the elite cavalry holding high the horse-tooth flag, with the Lu banner at the back. The Book of War says, the flag of the teeth is the banner of a general. It is said that in ancient times, when the emperor came out, a large flag of the teeth was built, and the pole was decorated with ivory, hence the cloud flag of the teeth. The head of the crowd was an old man with white hair and silver beards, but his face was rosy and full of energy. He was dressed in a strong suit, wearing a hat on his head, and holding arms, leading the crowd forward to welcome Liu Chan. Liu Chan walked slowly by the bridle and dismounted 10 meters away from Zhao Yun as a sign of respect. Zhao Yun led the officials in the army to perform military salutes, while Liu Chan returned the salute to show respect for important people at a young age. The officials, who had been waiting for a long time in the summer, saw Liu Chan returning his salute and their displeasure dissipated. The crowd stood upright, their left hand pressing their right hand, opposite to the woman's, their palms facing inward, and when they pushed their hands, they raised their forehead slightly upwards, bent down about 60 degrees, and the general salute turned into a bowing to the sky. Upon seeing this, Liu Chan smiled slightly in his heart, but his face remained unchanged as a gesture of closeness. He lifted Zhao Yun up and whispered, "Thank you, General Zhao." Zhao Yun claimed that he dared not. Liu Chan, Zhao Yun, and others immediately entered the dental arch. Jiangzhou Governor's Eastern Expedition Army's Tooth 10 Mil Wei, Huai, and Dong Yun bowed to Zhao Yun in a military salute, and the Lone King bowed to the sky in parallel, showing a strange appearance. Zhao Yun bowed to the earth in return for the gift. Liu Chan introduced everyone one by one and said to Wang Pingping. Zhao Yun laughed and said, "Zijuan, I know you. In the Battle of Hanzhong, Zijuan went from being a traitor to me. I never expected that Zijuan would be appreciated by His Highness, and as he grew older, I would forget many things, but I remember Zijuan even more deeply." Wang Ping gratefully said, "Thank you, Commander Zhao, for your kindness." Zhao Yun showed everyone to sit in. Zhao Yun asked, "Your Highness, the Prime Minister has sent a letter requesting me to protect your Highness and lead the laboring army to the east in Yiling." Liu Chan nodded and said, "Yes, but I'm even more worried that your Majesty's camp under the tree will be taken advantage of by Lu Sun, who will use fire to break through our army." Zhao Yun pondered for a moment and said, "Your Highness, this is reasonable. Your Majesty has been raising troops for many years, and I have repeatedly dissuaded your Majesty, angered your Majesty, and asked me to oversee food in Jiangzhou. I often pay attention to the front line of the war, and Huang Quan's dissuasion was sent to defend the bandit army in the north of the Yangtze River to move south. Ma Liang was sent by your Majesty to the Wuxi barbarians." Liu Chan did not reveal the true purpose of his eastward journey to Wang Ping. Wang Ping exclaimed curiously, "Is it difficult for Lu Sun to launch a fire attack on the camp? At this time, there is a lot of north wind, which can burn down the entire camp of the army, and the enemy can burn down a corner of our army. Moreover, our army is located north of the river." Dong Yun's family moved from Jingzhou to central Sichuan when their father was there. They didn't understand the wind direction in Jingzhou and seemed to have realized it. They didn't consider the issue of wind direction and were directly convinced by Liu Chan. Huai, Lu Wei, Zhao Yun, and Liu Chan, who knew the wind direction of Jingchu, looked at each other and laughed heartily. Zhao Yun supported Su and said, "As a general, I don't know how to be a general in terms of astronomy and geography. It's so short-sighted to use a single area in Shu to cover the entire Han Dynasty. The north wind is in the 6th, 7th, and 8th months of Shu, while the rest is in the northeast. Wang Ping, do you know the wind direction in Jingchu?" Wang Ping pondered and said, "Back then, our army in Sun Wu jointly defeated the rebels in Chibi. It was winter when the southeast wind blew, but at this time, the summer wind could still be southeast." Zhao Yun chuckled and said, "Zijuan only knows one thing, not the other. In winter, there is a northwest wind in Jingchu, and in summer, there is a southeast wind." At that time, Cao Cao relied on the wind direction to lock his ships, but little did he know how many days in winter there were southeast winds in Jingchu. As a general, when you are familiar with the weather, you cannot see the land of the Great Han from a corner, and you cannot underestimate the details. The Great Han extends to the sea in the east, the desert in the west, the high forests in the south, and the grasslands in the north. The terrain is complex and far beyond what we have seen. Everyone bowed in unison and said, "Your Highness, Commander." After hearing this, Wang Ping broke out in a cold sweat and his face turned red. He bowed and bowed, saying, "Thank you, Commander. He is arrogant at night. Your Highness, I have let down your Highness's kindness." After hearing this, Liu Chan and Zhao Yun looked at each other with a smile. Liu Chan raised an eyebrow at Zhao Yun, and Zhao Yun knew his intention. Zhao Yun sighed to himself, Yun has experienced countless battles and is already in his 60s. He still has no disciples to pass on the strategy. Unfortunately, it's a pity. After listening, Wang Ping was somewhat unaware of what Zhao Yun had said. He accepted himself, but Wang Ping couldn't believe it. Liu Chan said calmly, Zijuan has not yet thanked General Zhao for his kindness. Wang Ping looked up at Zhao Yun and saw him smiling at him. He immediately fell to the ground and knelt down in front of Zhao Yun, sobbing and saying, Ping, pay respects to master. Please forgive me for not being prepared for training. Kowtow to Zhao Yun 3 times, then turned towards Liu Chan and kowtow 3 times. Zhao Yun was deeply moved by Wang Ping's sincerity and said, Good child, get up. From now on, be loyal to the country. Wang Ping replied, 9 deaths are hard to repay. Your Highness, it is a grateful gesture of gratitude. Zhao Yun saw that Wang Ping knew that accepting disciples was a grace bestowed upon him by the Crown Prince Liu Chan, and couldn't help but secretly sigh that Wang Ping was exceptionally clever. Originally, Zhao Yun received a letter from Liu Chan asking him to accept Wang Ping as his disciple. However, knowing his background and unwillingness, he now feels that the disciple he has accepted is not foolish and has slightly improved his outlook. When everyone saw this scene, they secretly sighed at Wang Ping's good luck and congratulated him in unison. Congratulations to Governor Zhao for accepting a good disciple. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Huiyi's Aspiration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Huiyi's Aspiration. The night cast a layer of black veil over the earth, and from a distance, the white tents illuminated by the flames looked like pearls scattered on the ground. Jiangzhou commander's camp inside Liu Chan's camp. Liu Chan stood with a face focused on cutting candles, as if forgetting Huiyi in the tent. Huiyi hesitated to speak, worried that his question should not be asked. After all, it was just His Highness's employment. Although Liu Chan carried Huiyi behind his back, he seemed to have seen Huiyi's anxious expression with his own eyes. He talked and smiled, saying, Xiaoxian, with the courtesy name Huiyi, is there something wrong? Is it Wang Ping's fault? Huiyi responded and said, Your Highness, why do you love Wang Ping so much? Although Wang Ping is talented, he should not be personally taught by you. Governor Zhao will accept him as his disciple. Liu Chan stopped his hand and sighed, Yes, why treat Wang Ping so kindly? This is also everyone's doubt. It's normal for you to have this question. Xiaoxian, you are my brother who grew up with me since childhood. It doesn't matter if I tell you. Do you know the faction in Sichuan? Huiyi said, I have some knowledge, such as the Yuan Song faction led by Governor Zhao and General Wei, as well as the Jing Chu faction from Jingzhou, the Middle Eastern State faction in Shu, and the local faction in Shu. Liu Chan stood behind his back and said, That's about it. In fact, it can be simply put as the new and old factions, as well as the powerful and aristocratic factions in Shu. The new ones include Yuan Song, Jingchu, and a few people from Dongzhou. The old ones include the aristocratic tribes in Shu, the powerful people in Shu, and some people from Dongzhou. In the Han Dynasty, the real power of the higher vocational education was held by Yuan Song, Jingchu, and a few people from Shu. This contradiction is determined by the length of time and ability to join our army. But this contradiction naturally resolves over time, as the Prime Minister's appointment of officials is based on genuine talent and knowledge, regardless of the background behind them. Being fair in handling things, no one is dissatisfied. There are many people in Shu, so naturally, most of the people in the imperial court are from Shu, and the number of outsiders is decreasing day by day. Liu Chan picked up the case and slowly continued, saying, But if we want the northern expedition, the real high-level real power must be held by people from other provinces. People in Shu lack ambition to hold power, and the powerful aristocratic families in Shu will inevitably have an impact on the real high-level power. If we want the northern expedition, it will lose the interests of the powerful. People in Shu will hold high power, and in severe cases, it will cause the powerful people in Shu to profit from their power, annex land, and the people will have no land to cultivate. They can only become part of the powerful tribe, tenant farmers, and the country will find it difficult to tax. How can we talk about reviving the Han Dynasty? Hui seemed to understand that if something had happened, he would say, Your Highness wants to cultivate Wang Ping to succeed the Yuan Song faction in the imperial court and wield military power. Wang Ping is a Song person with no foundation inside and no relatives outside. Now he can accept him, and after 100 years, he can be highly valued. Hui excitedly said, Wang Ping came from a humble background. Although he was appreciated by the crown prince, he was easily looked down upon by others. Wang Ping came from a different background when he was under the tutelage of the Zhao governor, and the reputation of the Zhao governor in the army was extremely high. From then on, even though Wang Ping was from the Shu region, he could not escape the influence of the Yuan clique, let alone the fact that he was still a member of the Song people. Liu Chan turned to Hui and nodded with satisfaction. You understand, the court can have people from Sichuan, but those in power must be from other provinces or isolated ministers, so that I, the great Han, can actively make progress. Hui arched his hand and bowed, Your Highness, dispel any doubts. I will not leak any information. Liu Chan chuckled at some old foxes, which he could tell at a glance. If it was Fei Yi who saw through it at a glance, of course Dong Yun should also understand the purpose of doing it, which is unknown to Hui and Wang Ping's political novices. Liu Chan patted Hui's shoulder and said, I have explained so much to you. Firstly, you are me, a brother who grew up together from a young age. Although not a biological brother, you are better than a biological brother. In our own relationship, I hope that Xiao Xian can become my Han's Wei Qing in the future. Secondly, I have been with you for many years and I am well aware of your abilities. Although I do not know how to compare with Wang Ping, I believe there will not be much difference. In the future, you need to study military tactics diligently, learn martial arts diligently, and seek advice on the method of deploying troops. You also need to be familiar with the timing and location. Hui repeatedly agreed, feeling a desire to compete with Wang Ping. Liu Chan saw Hui's expression and knew that his goal had been achieved. He chuckled inwardly and saw that my prepared Wei Qing could win. Liu Chan wouldn't explain so much to Hui for nothing. The reason for explaining so much was that Hui developed a sense of competition. Hui, who grew up with Liu Chan, saw Liu Chan treating Wang Ping so well and enjoying the importance he had never experienced before, and he would definitely feel resentful in his heart. Although the two of them may not be at odds, it is impossible for them to be close and intimate. Liu Chan did not want them to get along intimately, but rather because they would all be military commanders in the future. If they were to get along intimately, many emperors would probably be very worried, as he had just laid the groundwork ahead of time. Liu Chan thought of it. On the way back to the camp, Hui saw Wang Ping holding a book and studying hard by the fire, only listening to a few words flipping back and forth. He was also writing and painting on the ground with burnt wooden branches, secretly sighing in his heart at Wang Ping's diligence. Wang Ping used to be illiterate, but now he has been constantly seeking advice from Dong Yun for just a few days and has achieved such results. Every day, Wang Ping holds a book and prepares a brief, and whenever he has free time, he salutes and asks Dong Yun for advice. Except for the grand gathering, Wang Ping asks Dong Yun. This strange incident has been circulating in the military, and it is unexpected that Wang Ping has no problem reciting short passages of text now. Hui walked onto the road, and Wang Ping saw Hui go up to hold a book and salute. He took out a previously unknown character and said, Xiao Xian, can I borrow time? Hui replied, what's up? Wang Ping smiled foolishly and said, what do these words mean? What is their meaning? What is the purpose of this passage for Sun Tzu? Hui saw a book and said, those who cannot win, defend themselves, those who can win, attack. If there are insufficient rules, attack will be more than enough. Those who are good at defending will hide under the 9 lands, while those who are good at attacking will move above the 9 heavens, so they can protect themselves and achieve complete victory. Wang Ping pointed to the characters hide, yu, and bao. Hua Yi replied, this is hiding, meaning to hide. The rest of the questions were explained by Wang Ping one by one. Wang Ping read it in a low voice several times, and then read the entire sentence several times when combined. Excitedly, he said to Hua Yi, I know. Hua Yi was surprised in his heart. With Wang Ping's level, how could he possibly understand this sentence in a short period of time, and intentionally ask, what does Zijuan mean? Wang Ping chuckled and said, Sun Tzu said that if you want to avoid being defeated by the enemy, you need to defend. If you want to defeat the enemy, you need to attack. Defending is because your troops are insufficient. If you take an attack, your troops are because your troops are sufficient and the enemy is relatively weak. Those who are good at defending and hiding their forces are like hiding deep underground, making the enemy invisible and visible. Those who are good at attacking and deploying their forces are like divine weapons descending from heaven. Therefore, they can effectively protect themselves and achieve comprehensive victory. The true meaning is, defense comes before attack. Our leaders need to think of defeat first, and then think of victory. Attack means that our troops need to be stronger than the enemy. Whether defending or attacking, we need to hide our true strength, so that the enemy is not aware of our true strength. Our defense can be easily carried out, and attacking requires quick deployment of soldiers to infiltrate. Hiding the army makes the enemy not know our true target, and when the enemy discovers it, they will have no time to react. Cao Cao's military tactics were like this. In the Battle of Guandu, Cao Cao's troops were not as good as Yuan Shao's. He defended against Yuan Shao's attack, and when Cao Cao attacked, he launched a surprise attack on Wu Chao. Isn't this the saying that when attacking, there is surplus, and those who are good at attacking move above the 9 heavens? Hua Yi sighed in admiration after listening, and Wang Ping indeed had the ability that His Highness said. Hua Yisin is neutral and determined to imitate Su Qin and Zhang Yito, who used to hang beams and study hard. I, Hua Yisin, will not be inferior to you, Wang Ping. Farewell. Wang Ping quickened his pace and walked towards the camp. Chen Shou said, Wang Ping was brave and strict. He grew up in the military and was unable to write with his hands, and his knowledge was only limited to the cross. However, when he was orally taught to write, he intended to make sense and read various historical records and biographies of the Han Dynasty. He listened carefully to them to understand their significance and often spoke without losing his meaning. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Battle of Yiling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Battle of Yiling. There is a deeper reason why Liu Chan supported Wang Ping so much. During the first northern expedition, he replaced Ma Su in guarding Jiling. In his previous life, he saw Ma Su disobeying Wang Ping's words and losing Jiling. He lamented that the most promising northern expedition of Shu Han was ruined by personnel mistakes, and Zhuge Liang could never achieve his strategic intention in his lifetime. To seize Longyu, occupy all the Yongliang and Liangzhou states, and threaten Guanzhong with a commanding force from a high altitude. Liu Chan took a few deep breaths and cleared his mind of distractions. The most important thing now is the Battle of Yiling. It may be difficult to turn the tide of the war, but minimizing losses is necessary. The Battle of Yiling resulted in the loss of the elite of the second generation of Shu Han, and must leave a legacy for the northern expedition in the future. Liu Chan knelt before the table and analyzed the strategic situation before and after the Battle of Yiling. In fact, the more he understood Shu Han, the more he realized that from Liu Bei's perspective, he had to fight. Firstly, in order to seek revenge for Guan Yu, who was as close as a brother. Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Liu Bei had a brotherly relationship. Since Liu Bei rose up in arms at the age of 28, they have had a friendship of nearly 30 years, named Junchen, but in reality, they are brothers. After all, with Liu Bei's personality of angrily attacking postal inspectors, it would be strange not to send troops. Secondly, regarding an explanation for the officials of the Jingzhou clique, after the Battle of Red Cliffs, the Jingzhou officials were roughly divided into two parts. One supported Cao Cao, and the other defected to Liu Bei. Now that their hometown has been taken, Liu Bei must fully express his support. Thirdly, Jingzhou was an important link in the confrontation between Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang in Longzhong. Regardless of Longzhong's plan to launch a northern expedition against the two regions, the four battle areas of Jingzhou, including Sun Wu in the east and Cao Wei in the north, all had to obtain Jingzhou in order to be feasible. After all, the northern expedition from Yizhou to Cao Wei has always been difficult, and the Qinling Mountains are sad. From ancient times to the present, only one Han Xi'an has succeeded because the Han River did not change its course. After the northern expedition by Zhuge, the regime entered Shu like a turtle in a jar, and its existence depends on when the Central Plains regime was unified. Therefore, the importance of the battle in Jingzhou is somewhat greater than that in Yizhou. Fourthly, as the highest leader, Liu Bei must make a statement in order to demonstrate to the world the political issue of Liu as the ruler of the world. Liu Chan continued to ponder the chain reaction of the entire three kingdoms after the Battle of Yiling. Firstly, although Cao Pai had the opportunity to unify the world, his personal abilities were great and his talents were sparse. If Liu Yi took the opportunity to attack Wu, there would be a momentum of the three kingdoms in the future. Liu Ye's biography cites Fu Zi. If a power seeks surrender without reason, there must be urgency within. Quan Xian attacked and killed Guan Yu, took the 4 counties of Jingzhou, prepared for anger, and will surely launch a great army to attack them. There are strong bandits outside, and people are uneasy. They are afraid that China will take their provocation and attack them. Therefore, they have entrusted their territory to surrender. One is to repel Chinese troops, and the other is to fake Chinese aid, in order to strengthen their masses and suspect the enemy. The power is good at using troops, and when one sees a strategy, they know how to change. Therefore, their strategy must come from here. Today at 3 o'clock, China has 8 out of 10. Wu and Shu each protect one province, blocking mountains and relying on water. When there is an urgent need to save each other, it is also beneficial for this small country. Today, we are still attacking each other, which is the end of heaven. Yida Xingshi, crossing the river to attack its interior. Shu attacked the outside, while I attacked the inside. The fall of Wu will not last for a month. If Wu perishes, Shu will be alone. If we cut off half of Wu, the solid state of Shu cannot last long. Besides, Shu has the outside, I have the inside. Cao Pai did not listen. After the Battle of Yiling, Cao Pai attacked Wu. Liu Yi advised, if Eastern Wu wins, everyone will unite to form a city. It will be difficult to succeed in the southern expedition. Cao Pai did not listen and returned after a great defeat. The biography of Liu Yi states: when the army was defeated and Wu Lijing was deposed, the emperor wanted to mobilize the masses to attack them. Yi believed that, if they have new aspirations and unite, it will be difficult to lead the rivers and lakes. The emperor refused to listen. Cao Pai can be said to have a significant difference in personal abilities compared to Cao Cao and Cao Rui. In the words of future generations, it is said that people are addicted to food, and giving them opportunities is useless. Secondly, from the war between Cao Wei and Yiling to the northern expedition by Zhuge Liang, the military focus was on Eastern Wu, and Shu Han had no time to take care of it. Ignoring it, Zhuge Liang's northern expedition to Longyu surprisingly only had 10,000 troops. Finally, after the Battle of Yiling in Eastern Wu, it occupied most of Yangzhou, Jiaozhou, and Jingzhou, greatly increasing its strength and taking on the key targets of attack by Cao Wei. Liu Chan sighed leisurely and said, afterwards, we must adjust our strategy, reform the official system, and change our military service. To conquer Yongzhou and Liangzhou in the north, Longyu will occupy the position of northern Zhou, and there is hope of unifying the world. In this situation, it must be consistent with the historical results. If Cao Wei did not relax his guard against Shu Han during the first northern expedition, the northern expedition would be difficult to achieve. Therefore, it is best to say that the Battle of Yiling can be lost, but it cannot be like in history, where the last emperor's immunity is the only outcome. Therefore, Liu Chan believed that the Battle of Yiling in Shu Han could be lost, and the loss must appear brutal, but the actual losses should not be devastating. It is not possible to be driven to the White Emperor's city like in history, retreat to Zhuge to regroup, and occupy Jingbei after the successful northern expedition in the future. The outcome of the Battle of Yiling can be different. When retreating to the east of the White Emperor's city, the terrain of the White Emperor's city is easily surrounded by the Sun Wu Navy, and it is difficult to march on the road. It is best to retreat to Zhuge. In terms of changing the situation in the war, the most important thing is that Huang Quan must successfully retreat. Huang Quan has tens of thousands of troops and outstanding personal abilities. He is also an important force in Liu Chan's future political situation, and an indispensable part of the great Han Dynasty's northern expedition. Secondly, generals such as Mao Yang, Fu Tong, Cheng Ji, and Zhang Nan fought for rescue. Thirdly, how many soldiers can be saved? Do not rely on materials for soldiers, as the great Han lacks population, especially young and strong individuals. Finally, Shu Han concealed his strength and advanced to the south, accumulating food and grass, repairing his armor, and gathering strength to head north for the first decisive battle. Liu Chan finally settled on the idea of constantly wavering from time to time, author's note. Why did Cao Wei not pay attention to Shu Han after the Battle of Yiling? Because the Battle of Yiling caused heavy losses to Shu Han, with the rebellion in the south and the defeat of Guan Yu, the only famous general recognized by the Wei state, leaving no one in Shu Han. No one expected that Shu Han would become corrupt and a prime minister would not govern the people, but would go to war and fight in the Central Plains. The protagonist had foresight and knew the causal relationship, so he was worried about affecting the historical process and losing the biggest golden finger of the travelers. When would he lose this golden finger? It would be a successful northern expedition. If the outcome of the Battle of Yiling in Shu Han changed too much now, it would be like the protagonist would not have a golden finger in the future, and history would change many things based on the butterfly effect. The golden finger is equivalent to a disposable nuclear weapon, and you must use it in the most important moments to maximize profits. Moreover, the author travels late, and the Battle of Yiling begins in June. The protagonist travels through May, and cannot go to Yiling before. In June, he goes to Yiling in the name of filial piety. At this time, Lu Sun's situation was basically completed, and it was almost impossible to change the situation. Therefore, let the Battle of Yiling lose, preserve his strength, pacify Nanzhong earlier, accumulate strength, and in the first northern expedition, recruit the whole country's troops, which was the most promising way to change the awkward situation of Shu Han. Now that Shu Han won the Battle of Yiling, it became Cao Pai's campaign against Shu. Now we must persevere and let Eastern Wu be the leader. The next chapter will analyze the characteristics of Lu Sun's military tactics. Although Lu Sun was a Confucian general, his tactics were extremely ruthless and confusing. If he didn't take action, he would be killed. Lu Sun has a very strong tactical perspective, and it's not surprising that Liu Bei lost to Lu Sun. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Lu Sun's Use of War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Lu Sun's Use of War. There are too many hardcores in this chapter to write about. On the Yangtze River, sailboats were spotted, and as they passed by, faint white ripples were left on the surface of the river. Upon closer inspection, one could only see that the fleet was centered around boats flying the Zhao flag and the Lu banner. Inside the cabin, Liu Chan was discussing the Battle of Yiling with Zhao Yun and others around the terrain map of Yiling, including Hui Yi, Wang Ping, and Dong Yun. Zhao Yun held arrows in his hand and analyzed the camping situation of the Eastern Expedition Army and the known military deployment of the Eastern Wu Army for everyone. Zhao Yunbian pointed and said, due to the narrow terrain and hot weather from Zhuxiang to Yidao, our army has set up more than 40 camps and villages. Zhang Nan from the front is directly facing Yidao, while General Huang from the north of the Yangtze River is defending Yiling Road against the Liu Sun army and defending the rebels from heading south. The navy is stationed at 2 surveys in Zhuxiang, guarding the grain road. Your Majesty is leading his headquarters in the front, besieging Yidao. Everyone can see that the picture shows an L shape, with a prominent Jiangnan army. Zhang Nan from the front directly reaches Yidao and confronts Sun Heng. If we were to launch a fire attack according to your highness, our army's 40 Yiling battalions would be quickly ignited in an instant, supplemented by heavy troops to attack them. Our army has been on an expedition for another year, and all the soldiers are exhausted, fearing that there will be no remaining army. Zhao Yun finished speaking and looked around the crowd, gesturing to them. After listening to this, Wang Ping pondered for a while and pointed to the army in front of him, saying, if that's the case, your Majesty is in danger. Liu Sun will definitely lead his troops across the river, cut off your Majesty's retreat, and surround your Majesty with Sun Heng in front. After Wang Ping finished speaking, everyone was shocked. Wang Ping ignored everyone's surprise and continued, General Huang Quan is probably already in the planning of Liu Sun. There has been a major upheaval in Jiangnan, and waterways have been cut off. General Huang Quan's troops are likely to be captured by Liu Sun. Liu Chan praised in his heart that Wang Ping's words were almost in line with what Liu Sun was plotting, but Liu Sun probably didn't expect Huang Quan to vote for Wei rather than Wu. Zhao Yun was secretly pleased that Wang Ping, as a disciple, was not mistaken and indeed had a keen sense of smell that was different from others on the battlefield. Liu Chan looked around the crowd and asked calmly, do the others have any further insights? Liu Chan looked at Hui Yi. Hui Yi immediately spoke with a slightly excited tone and pointed to Zhuge Township, saying, Zhuge Township is the key point. If Liu Sun sends troops to the north of the Yangtze River, Zhuge Township will be an important support point for our army's front. Our army's Zhuge Township can gather scattered soldiers forward, respond to General Huang Quan to the north, and our army can respond to His Majesty's return to the east. Liu Chan nodded in approval and said, Shaoxian and Zijuan are absolutely right. Zhao Yun sighed and said, so it seems that Liu Sun is not weak in Dongjin. In the Battle of Red Cliffs, I saw Zhou Lang with great bravery and divine military prowess, while Cao Cao's military prowess was unexpected. I didn't expect that after Dongjin, there would be more heroes in Jiangdong, and there are many heroes in Jiangdong's children. Everyone remained silent, except for Hui Yi's expression of disapproval. Liu Chan saw everyone like this, in order to encourage everyone to speak out about the perspective of God known in later generations. Liu Chan smiled slightly and said, Commander Zhao, Liu Sun's military tactics are nothing more than that. When I was in Chengdu, I knew about Liu Sun's fire attack, but I don't know how many people know about him. Zhao Yun helped Su and said, Liu Sun was a descendant of the Liu family in Jiangdong. Before and after the Battle of Red Cliffs, when I arrived in Jiangdong, Liu Sun was a scholar. At that time, Liu Ji and Gu Shao were equally famous for reading books, followed by Liu Sun, Zhang Dun, and Bu Jing. Later, Liu Sun was highly valued by Sun Quan and made great contributions to the campaign against Shangyue, gaining his trust. Sun Quan also invited Liu Sun to marry his niece. He was not in Jingzhou for many years, and he knew very little about it. Liu Chan talked and said, this was in the early years of Liu Sun's campaign against Shangyue Shaoshernyodo. Little is known about it, but Liu Meng crossed the river in white clothes and captured Jingzhou. General Guan died in Maicheng, which was Liu Sun's plan. Liu Chan revealed the secret behind the capture of Jingzhou. The crowd was amazed, and Liu Chan continued, back then, LV Meng pretended to be sick. Liu Sun took over as LV Meng, showing his weakness and arrogance as the Marquis of Han shouting. Lord and Marquis believed it and deployed heavy troops to defend the east of the Yangtze River for the northern expedition. Lu Sun also secretly communicated with two generals, Lu Fang and Shi Ren, and Lv Meng crossed the river in white clothes, besieging Lord and Marquis to Maicheng and cutting off their way back to Izhou. Lu Sun's military tactics were all about eradicating grass and roots and eliminating evil deeds, without leaving any future troubles. He personally blocked the path of Lord and Marquis to Shu against Pan Lin and Yu-Tu Feijan, and this person did not move. Once you use your hand to get it right, there is no way out. Ignoring the surprised expressions of the crowd, Liu Chan took the arrows from Zhao Yun's hand and slowly threw out the historical plan made by Lu Sun. If I were Lu Sun, I would fire the company's camp, mobilize heavy troops from the north of the Yangtze River to cut off your Majesty's retreat, send brave soldiers, and intercept the entire army's retreat from Bajra Township. The company's army will be in chaos, and there will be no remaining 40,000 soldiers. The navy separated the north of the Yangtze River, and General Huang Quan had no choice but to retreat. General Huang Quan's 10,000 troops had only three routes: to surrender to Wei, surrender to Wu, and engage in a deadly battle. Lu Sun will definitely attack Zhuge, and our soldiers will be captured again when they arrive in Zhuge. Your Majesty is going out to the east and wants to send troops to the Yiling Mausoleum to sweep through Jingnan. The Yidao is the key gate of life, and Lu Sun has sent Sun Huan to defend it. From Zhuxiang to Yidao, the terrain was narrow. Lu Sun knew that the terrain was narrow and it was inconvenient for the army to mobilize. He retreated hundreds of miles to defend Yidao and led the emperor to attack. Your Majesty marched hundreds of miles, but due to the terrain, he had to camp, and Liu Chan sighed and said, Lu Sun used his army to show weakness and lure his Majesty into the border, just like attacking Jingzhou. He showed the enemy weakness and the opportunity to kill was behind. When Lu Sun attacked Feijan, he showed the enemy strength. Lu Sun's military use was no less than that of his ancient grandson and Wu. As Sun Tzu's Art of War said, those who are good at fighting should not harm others. This is the essence of military use, and as a commander, they must have it. After Liu Chan finished speaking, everyone marveled at Lu Sun's extraordinary military skills. Wang Ping was puzzled by the saying, those who are good at warfare should be directed towards others but not towards them. Liu Chan observed this and said, those who are good at warfare should be directed towards others but not towards them. This means that a person who uses military power can mobilize others but cannot be mobilized by others. Lu Sun is well versed in the art of military tactics. Guanjuan and Marquis flooded the 7 armies, and the awe-inspiring power of China is just like that. Qi Tian broke through Yan and restored the state of Qi, that's how it is. Wang Ping was lost in thought after listening, and Huai was eagerly anticipating it. Liu Chan couldn't help but marvel at Hui's belief that a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. Zhao Yun laughed happily and said, Your Highness, Lu Sun's military tactics are not inferior to those of Sun Yat-sen and Wu. If Your Highness sees through Lu Sun's military tactics today, isn't it super Lu Sun? Why are you so afraid? Liu Chan's face turned slightly red. In his past life, he was just a college student and a village official in the village. He often read through history when he had free time and was very curious about ancient military tactics. Liu Chan smiled bitterly and said, I visited Jingdu in May. Jingdu did not serve due to his old age, but he talked to Jingdu about our army's eastward expedition. This is what Jingdu told me. Jingdu often communicates with friends in Jiangdong and knows about Lu Sun's abilities. Therefore, he gave me an analysis of the Yiling war situation and Lu Sun's military tactics. Liu Chan thought to himself that the Prime Minister of Mei wanted me to follow Liu Ying's example and invite the 4 houses of Shangshan to visit Jingdu, but Jingdu was old and critically ill, and his life was not long. Leaving Chengdu in June, I heard that Jingdu's family had prepared for the aftermath in advance, and there would be no evidence to prove it. It is unlikely that they will reveal anything. Jia Su advised Cao Pai, saying, although Wu and Shu are small countries and rely on obstructed mountains and rivers, Liu Bei has great talent. Zhuge Liang is good at governing the country, while Sun Quan is aware of both reality and falsehood. When Liu Yi sees the military situation, it is difficult to plan for soldiers to sail in the rivers and lakes. The way of using troops is to win first and then fight, and measure the enemy to determine the general. Therefore, there is no last resort. I have stolen information from the courtiers, without any preparation or power, and although they face it with the power of heaven, I have not seen a complete situation. In the past, Shun danced with Qi and had Miao clothing, but I thought that it is advisable to win first and then fight. Emperor Wen refused. In the Battle of Huang Jiangling, many soldiers died. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Hui Yi's Debate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Hui Yi's Debate. Liu Chan said in a solemn voice, based on Mr. Jingdu's speculation and our deduction, if Liu Sun wants to defeat our army until complete annihilation, it is highly likely that he will act in this way. Zhao Yun, Hui Yi, Wang Ping and others nodded in agreement. Liu Chan said to the crowd, although our troops are small this time, it is not difficult to rescue the Yiling Eastern Expedition Army. According to our military strategy against Liu Sun, how can we arrange according to everyone's opinions? Xiu Zhao, please inform us of the current total strength of our army first. Dong Yun responded and said, General Liu Wei, with 600 infantry and cavalry, has the Huban army and its Milu clan tribe under him, General Ma Dai, with 200 cavalry, all of them are tribes, Wang Ping, with 300 guards of the Crown Prince's mansion, Hui Yi, with 200 tribes, under me, with 200 tribes, Zhao Dudu, with 2,000 soldiers from Jiangzhou. The total number of troops transporting grain and labor is 3,500, and the transportation of grain, grass, and equipment can meet the needs of the Eastern Expedition Army for more than a month. The details are in the book, please verify, Your Highness. Dong Yun finished speaking and bowed his hand. Handing over the book to Liu Chan carefully read it and handed it over to Zhao Yun for reference. Liu Chan played with arrows and asked the crowd, everyone knows the summary of our military strength. How will we arrange this battle? Zhao Yun stroked his beard and wanted to say, but Liu Chan waved his hand to signal that Zhao Yun understood Liu Chan's meaning. Fu Su smiled silently. I saw everyone pondering, and Liu Chan wanted to study Ma Dai. After all, in the history of his past life, Ma Dai, the records of the Three Kingdoms, and other historical books have been recorded very little, and I don't know what he can do. Liu Chan pointed his arrow at Ma Dai and said calmly, Bo Zhan, with the character Ma Dai, tell me your thoughts. Ma Dai felt a bit confused when Liu Chan pointed to him. He thought to himself, I have been living in the Western Liang for a long time, and I do not know the customs and landforms of Jingchu. There are many differences, so it is not easy to say more. However, your Highness is careful of me, and what I say must have something. Ma Dai pondered for a while and arched his hand, saying, Dai has been living in the Western Liang for a long time. He dare not speak lightly about the Yiling War, but according to Hui Yi's previous statement, Zhuge Township is the key point. We must defend Zhuge Township and send elite troops to rescue your Majesty. Saving your Majesty is not possible without our elite cavalry. I am here to ask for war. I am willing to lead my cavalry to break through the encirclement of the Wu army and rescue your Majesty. Liu Chan secretly thought that Ma Dai was a fierce general who rushed into battle. Sending troops to fight was not his forte, but rather a cavalry general from the Western Liang. Liu Chan nodded in approval and said, Bo Zhan is brave, I know it. That day, I will raise a wine for you and embark on a heroic journey. After speaking, Liu Chan looked around and saw everyone pondering. Liu Chan was not in a hurry and asked Zhao Yun in a low voice, Governor Zhao, where is the front line? Zhao Yun whispered back, Lekeng. After the cabin was quiet for a while, Hui Yi arched his hand and said, Your Highness, please allow me to hear a word from you. Liu Chan gestured to the crowd, everyone, listen to Xiao's words first. Please. Liu Chan handed the arrow to Hui Yi. Hui Yi held an arrow and said to the map, look, no matter how hard Zhuge Township must be defended, if it is lost here, more than 40 large camps will be lost. Under the pincer attack from front to back, 40,000 troops will not be left. Moreover, Zhuge Township is also a place where the navy is connected. If Zhuge Township is lost, the Eastern Wu Navy will move upstream and the Jiangnan Navy will be lost. Where will the navy retreat? If the navy retreats, General Huang Quan will cut off the rear road. Therefore, I believe that Zhuge Township must be defended, and Zhuge Township is the rear camp of our army, with some of the food and grass piled up here, which cannot be lost. Everyone nodded in agreement. Hui Yi added to his previous remarks and provided a detailed introduction to Liu Chan's strategic speculation about Lu Sun. Hui Yi continued excitedly, if our army were to defend Zhuge Township, advance along the Dongwu waterway, and the Dongwu navy would be sharp, our navy would be difficult to resist, and our navy would definitely retreat to the camp. Even if Zhuge Township were to be defended, our army's strength would be insufficient for fear of insufficient field combat, making it difficult to rescue the navy camp. Our navy camp would be lost under the siege of the Dongwu navy and the army on the road. Therefore, if the navy does not return to Zhuge, but instead defends the navy camp like our army, the camp will be lost. If the navy is lost, General Huang Quan will find it difficult to return north. Liu Chan nodded secretly, and everyone. As Hui Yi's words and expressions gradually became solemn. Wang Ping also listened attentively. Although he was deeply loved by Liu Chan and Zhao Yun, he was also envied by the people in the military. In this situation, Wang Ping was more cautious in his dealings with the world, and he was unaware of the navy and the weather changes in Jingchu, so he dared not speak much. Hui Yi became increasingly excited and said, if our navy were to return to Zhuge, it would be safe, but General Huang Quan is still isolated from the river and it is difficult to return north. If General Huang Quan has fewer troops, he can return west on the road. However, General Huang Quan has 10,000 troops under his command, and the food and supplies will be difficult to sustain, and Eastern Wu will definitely pursue him. After Hui Yi finished speaking, he looked at Liu Chan and asked calmly, Xiao Xian, can you have a strategy to save General Huang Quan? Hui Yi's face turned serious and he said, Your Highness has a way, but there will be gains and losses. If you want to save General Huang Quan, it will be difficult for the navy to survive. Liu Chan raised his hand in a serious tone and asked, Please speak, Xiao Xian. Hui Yi arched his hand and replied, I have consulted the letters left by Xian Yan, the deceased father. Xian Yan wrote in the book. The downstream of the Yiling waterway is a winding river, with deep and shallow waters, and complex waterways. The upstream Yiling waterway is deep and has a high flow velocity, and the downstream flow width is widened and the flow velocity is reduced. The sediment on the inside of the bend where the Yiling road is located is severe. Our army can sink the navy's large material ships to the bottom of the river, making it impossible for the Dongwu Navy warships to pass through. We can quickly dispatch transport ships to transport General Huang Quan's troops back. Hui Yi finished speaking and glanced at Wang Ping, adding, If the river is in such a situation, it is impossible to enter by waterway. If the ships stop at the Yi Road, the departure time for the ships will be too long and the speed will be slow. If they encounter a fire attack from the Eastern Wu Navy, the ships will be difficult to disperse. Therefore, the reason why our army cannot enter by waterway is here. Wang Ping suddenly realized that Hui Yi knew that Wang Ping had been pondering why His Majesty's army did not advance by waterway recently, and he specifically added what he had said. Hui Yi felt secretly happy when he saw Wang Ping like this, overwhelming him. The story of the competition between Hui Yi and Wang Ping didn't concern Liu Chan, and he only smiled faintly at Hui Yi's youthful nature. After everyone finished listening to the discussion, Dong Yun arched his hand and replied, No way. Your Highness, the navy ship is the result of my hard work as a Han. This is the result of my Han's hard work. The ship capsized. If I don't have a Han navy, then the great river belongs to Eastern Wu. Liu Chan smiled and said, after the Battle of Yiling, our Han Dynasty was no longer able to leave Jingzhou in the east. The presence of naval forces had no influence, and ships were property. How could soldiers from Huangquan compare to these ships? If ships were gone, they could be rebuilt, and if people were gone, how could they be revived? Moreover, even if only General Huangquan returned, our army would still be worth it. General Huangquan is a great talent of the country, and only a fleeting naval force can compare to him. Xiu Zhao, I also want to save the navy and General Huangquan, but I cannot have both fish and bear's paws. If you have a strategy to offer, I will listen to you. Dong Yun retreated silently, sighing in his heart, Your Highness is unaware of political affairs. These ships are only the hard-earned gains of the shipworkers in Izhou, and the great Han does not know how much savings he has spent. But this is the only way to save people. How could Dong Yun not know the importance of Huangquan's troops, but he was just reluctant to part with them. Placing Dong Yun in Liu Chan's position, Dong Yun would also make the same choice as Liu Chan, which can be said to be not in his position, not in his position. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Liu Chan's Layout. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Liu Chan's layout. After listening to Huiyi's plan to rescue Huangquan, everyone was discussing incessantly. Liu Chan raised his hand and asked Zhao Yun, Governor Zhao, how about Huiyi chiseling a boat to sink the river to save Huangquan? Zhao Yun stroked his beard and sighed, wonderful. There is Lu Sun in Eastern Wu, and Huiyi in my Han Dynasty. Huiyi's words are feasible, but there are a few things to pay attention to. Firstly, it is important to grasp the timing of sinking a ship into the river. If it sinks too early, the navy in the east of the river can still pass through, and our army has no navy, we will be defeated. Secondly, it is important to note that sinking a ship into the river can only stop the enemy for a while, and there must be a large number of small boats traveling between the north and south of the river. Therefore, we need to gather all ships from Baidi City, later renamed Yong'an, to the area of Zhuge, abandon food and equipment, and transport the Huangquan army in 1 or 2 trips. Thirdly, it is necessary to maintain contact with Huangquan's troops and allow them to quickly move to the riverside while Eastern Wu's attention is focused on more than 40 large camps in the south of the Yangtze River before the attack. The navy will start sinking and quickly transport Huangquan's troops. Remember not to act in advance. If you startle Lu Sun and cause him to act in advance, it will be difficult for Huangquan to return the river. Someone needs to go to Jiangbei to cooperate on this matter. Huiyi arched his hand and said in a high voice, Your Highness, I came up with the plan. I am willing to go to Jiangbei to coordinate. Liu Chan smiled faintly and said, Okay. Can all of you have any supplements or shortcomings? Wang Ping, upon seeing Liu Chan pointing at him, arched his hand and replied, Your Highness, Governor Zhao Zhujian is in front of me. I dare not say much. I only discussed the aftermath of the war. After this battle, can our army still be stationed in Zhuge Township? I think it is impossible. If the Eastern Expedition Army is attacked by Lu Sun's fire, it will be flanked by heavy troops. The morale of the people is difficult to support, and our army is blocked in Yiling. The navy has no large ships, so we cannot enter or retreat. We will retreat to Zhuge, which is our army's main camp for food, grass, and supplies, and defend Zhuge. Cao Pai is in the north, and Lu Sun will not dare to mobilize. Heavy troops are attacking, waiting for Cao Wei and Sun Wu to secretly develop a grudge before heading south. Therefore, Zhuge needs to reinforce its city walls and enhance its defense, but our military strength is difficult to support. It is not necessary to transfer another domestic county soldier to the south to repair the city walls and strengthen the defense, in case Zhuge is lost. Our army will gather the main force of the eastern expedition and then retreat to Zhuge. After listening, Liu Chan felt lost in thought and his gaze fell on Zhao Yun, asking for his opinion. Zhao Yun praised, "What Zhuge said is absolutely true. We can send another army south to guard the important grain and forage town of Zhuge." Liu Chan grabbed the arrow from the quiver and used it as a military command card, arranging, "Dong Yun, listen to the order, and order you to extract what we have said. Get off the ship at Zhuge, hand over the letter to the officials, and have them send the letter and picture to your majesty in Zhuge Township. Please withdraw your troops, as the front army is too forward and may be easily divided by Lu Sun and surrounded by heavy troops." Afterwards, he stayed in Zhuge and collected boats to be sent to Zhuge Township. Not long after, Brazilian Governor Yan Ji led 3,000 soldiers to Zhuge to assist him in repairing the city and helping our army safely return to the west. Dong Yun took the arrow and promised, curious, why would Brazilian Governor Yan Ji lead 3,000 soldiers to arrive? Liu Chan chuckled and said, "On the morning before my departure, I met with the Prime Minister to discuss the situation of the war. The Prime Minister was worried about the Yiling War and prevented the Eastern Wu Navy from harassing the Zhuge grain route by extending the river. He insisted on defending Zhuge and asked the Governor of Brazil, Yan Ji, to lead 3,000 soldiers to Zhuge." Dong Yun's face showed a worried expression and he said, "Your Highness and the Prime Minister's unauthorized deployment of county troops is not in accordance with the law. If your Majesty blames you, it may be difficult to escape His Majesty's criticism." Liu Chan said calmly, "There is no need to worry. The Prime Minister has written a military transfer document to your Majesty under the pretext of protecting the Zhuge grain road. If there is any responsibility, I will bear it together with the Prime Minister, and you can take the order." Hui received the order to prepare a ship and search for a suitable spot for the sunken ship when you arrive in Zhuge Township. I will first search for Chen Shi and then go to General Huang to coordinate the withdrawal of the troops. Wang Ping received the order that our army will arrive at Zhuge Township and need to immediately repair the camp, as well as understand the situation of more than 40 other camps. Milu Wei and Ma Dai obey the order. If there is any war and there is no news from your Majesty, lead your elite cavalry to search for your Majesty's army and ensure your Majesty's safety. Governor Zhao received the order that if more than 40 camps were in turmoil and soldiers retreated, quickly lead the troops to gather the fallen soldiers. Hui, Wang Ping, Lu Wei and others stepped forward and took the arrows. Liu Chan said confidently, "If Lu Sun really says this, we will proceed according to plan. If there is no such thing, everyone can rest assured and stay in the military camp. I will wait for your Majesty's decree to go and visit you at any time. If we follow history, it is impossible not to happen. It is quite difficult to withdraw the army without any losses now. It is now the end of June, and it will be Leap June when it arrives in Zhuge Township. In the Leap of June in history, Lu Sun set fire to Liaoning, and our Han Crown Prince Liu Chan also had to show his talent for the first time. Moonlight shone on the Yangtze River, and Liu Chan stood at the bow of the ship, feeling the moonlight and summer breeze of 1,000 years ago. Liu Chan looked at the scenery of the Yangtze River that was not much different from that of later generations, and an indescribable feeling surged in his heart. Zhao Yun hung the cloak on Liu Chan's shoulder and asked with concern, "I once heard that His Highness unfortunately fell off his horse while riding and shooting. How have you been lately?" Liu Chan smiled warmly and said, "Uncle Zhao, when you and I are alone, you don't need to be polite. You can call me the heir. The injury is not a big deal, how can there be no reason not to be injured while riding horses and practicing archery? But how is Uncle Zhao's health? Do his legs and feet still hurt during the rainy season?" Zhao Yun waved his hand and said indifferently, "The internal injury is difficult to cure. During cold or rainy seasons, there is often pain in the legs and feet. Now it seems that Yun also has an extra skill in astronomy. My body is still strong, I won't be able to live for another 10 years, haha." After a pause, Zhao Yun asked, "I dare to ask your Highness how to persuade the Prime Minister to agree to His Highness's eastward departure." Such a move is quite impressive. Liu Chan smiled lightly and said, Your Majesty has been on a military expedition for nearly a year. The soldiers were exhausted and the morale of the army was difficult to use. The Prime Minister noticed that there were many delays, so he often sent letters to Ma Shizhong, Ma Liang, to advise His Majesty. However, to his surprise, Ma Shizhong was sent by His Majesty to Yiling to contact the Wuxi barbarians for assistance. In May, I wrote a letter to Your Majesty. It was the rainy season and Your Majesty refused to accept it. I also wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, asking him to take more care of my studies. When the Prime Minister heard about this matter, I explained the depth and difficulties involved. The Prime Minister believed that Liu Sun might have hidden plans, but he dared not assert it. In June, the war was intense and the Prime Minister was worried about it. With my persuasion and self-recommendation, he allowed me to go out under the pretext of filial piety and labor. As for the Brazilian prefect Yan Ji, he was just a backup left by the Prime Minister, and he should be lucky enough to use it now. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yun laughed heartily and said, Your Majesty wouldn't blame Your Highness. I thought Your Majesty would reward Your Highness. Your Majesty had previously talked to me about Your Highness's benevolent and righteous personality, and he was afraid of pursuing pleasure. Therefore, he appointed Dong Yun as the Crown Prince's supervisor. Now Your Highness is decisive, fearless of difficulties, and will surely be overjoyed. Zhao Yun immediately said with sadness, Since the beginning of this year, many old officials have passed away due to illness. Yun Chang, Ida, Han Sheng, and Xiao Ji have passed away one by one, and I am deeply saddened. Your Highness is gradually strengthening, which is the most joyful thing for me this year. Your Highness, we are old. We will continue to lead the Zhongxing Great Han Dynasty. Liu Chan remained silent. End of this chapter.